Coming up on Primetime News, celebrations took place all across the country today on the eve of the 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japan's colonial rule. And Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe says the previous cabinet's apologies will remain unshakable, but adds future generations should not be expected to apologize, raising questions over the sincerity of his statement. And after 4 days of silence, North Korea denies involvement in landmine explosions in the DMZ that maimed 2 South Korean soldiers. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello and welcome to Primetime News on this Friday, August 14th. I'm Hwang Ji-hye.
And I'm Daniel Choy. Thank you for joining us.
It's the eve of the 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japan's colonial rule.
And with the government designated today a temporary holiday, the mood seemed even more festive than in previous years. Events celebrating the day took place all across the country with a special concert commemorating the anniversary taking place at Seoul Plaza in the center of the capital this evening.
Many tourist destinations were packed with vacationers enjoying their 3-day holiday, and some 400,000 visitors flocked to the beaches and other sites in the port city of Busan. The boost in domestic travel comes on the back of the government's move to allow drivers to travel on expressways free of charge today. For months, the world was anticipating what Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe would say in his statement to mark the anniversary of the end of World War II. The Japanese leader expressed profound grief over the country's wartime past, but some say it's not enough to bring Seoul and Tokyo closer together. Our Hwang Ji-hye reports.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe expressed profound grief over Japan's wartime past, but issued no fresh apology of his own.
Upon the innocent people did our country inflict immeasurable damage and suffering. History is harsh. What is done cannot be undone.
In the statement marking the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II on Friday, Abe upheld apologies made by his predecessors, using terms like heartfelt apology, aggression, and colonial rule. These were the key words that shaped the landmark Murayama Statement issued in 1995. But Abe fell short of issuing a new apology, rather calling on the need to turn the page for Japan's future generations.
We must not let our children, grandchildren, and even further generations to come who have nothing to do with that war be predestined to apologize.
While Abe extended a clear olive branch to China by acknowledging the emotional struggles caused by the Japanese military, he did not go into any specifics regarding Korea. He remained vague with his acknowledgement of the female victims of the war, also referred to as comfort women, and who were forced into sexual slavery during the war. Abe made no direct apology towards these victims, an issue that has been the biggest thorn between Korea and Japan.
We must never forget that there were women behind the battlefields whose honor and dignity were severely injured.
An official at Seoul's foreign ministry said Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se stressed the utmost importance of Tokyo's sincerity to his Japanese counterpart Fumio Kishida during a phone call on Friday. Experts say the assessment of the so-called Abe statement will vary depending on the audience. While the lengthy speech may disarm Abe's critics in some parts of the world, they say it certainly will not be enough to break the ice between Korea and Japan. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Now coming back to Korea, although the eve of Korea's Liberation Day was made a public holiday this year, the leaders of Korea's main rival parties were busier than ever on the start of this 3-day weekend. According to our Park Ji-won, they spent the day attending various events commemorating the significance of the occasion.
Ruling Saenuri Party leader Kim Moo-sung began Friday by paying his respects at the tomb of Kim Gu, a visionary leader of Korea's independence movement who served as the sixth and final president of the interim government during the colonial rule of Japan, known as the Provisional Government of the Republic of Korea. He also visited the Seodaemun Prison History Hall, where independence activists were jailed and killed. Today, it is considered symbolic of the Korean people's suffering and pain during the 36 years of oppression from Japan. Meanwhile, the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy's floor leader Lee Jong-gar participated in the closing ceremony of a bicycle pilgrimage, a 540-kilometer journey across the country lasting 6 days. The ceremony was held at Injingak, located a mere 7 kilometers south of the military demarcation line separating the two Koreas. Lee said the pilgrimage, which included stops at significant sites of past independence movements against Japan, was a tribute to the invincible souls of the independence activists. Lee added that he believes true liberation can only be realized after unification, the most important remaining task for the current generation. The opposition floor leader once again stressed that this event could provide a chance to reflect on reconciliations between the two Koreas, as well as the peace and stability of East Asia. Park Ji-won, Arirang News, Paju.
From aid recipient to donor and now Asia's fourth largest economy, Korea has racked up some unbelievable records on the way to achieving its current stature in the global economy. For more on how the Korean economy has evolved in terms of statistics, we turn to our Song Ji-sun.
Korea's remarkable post-war economic growth is often referred to as the miracle on the Han River for its rapid industrialization, technological achievements, and urbanization. Now, GDP has surged 31,000 times since 1953, from $41 million that year to $1.4 trillion in 2014. And today, Korea is the 13th largest economy in the world in terms of purchasing power. The country's gross national income per capita jumped to $28,000 last year from just $67 per person in the same period. Now, all of this has been made possible by Korea's robust export growth. Korea is currently the world's sixth largest exporter, with over $573 billion last year from $25 million in 1956. The country has also grown in size, with the population more than doubling since independence from Japan. Now, half the population lives in the metropolitan areas, with 10 million in Seoul. With the rapid development of the health and welfare systems, Korea's life expectancy has risen from 62 to 82. But questions remain about whether quality of life has improved alongside the country's rapid economic growth. And several indicators reveal a darker side of the Korean society. Now, for example, the suicide rate soared to 28 per 100,000 people in 2013 from 8 in 1983. Now, that's the highest among the OECD member countries. The income gap is also rising by the decade, meaning the country will also have to act soon to address the disparity. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Shifting gears now, a movie that salutes men and women who fought and died to liberate Korea from Japanese colonial rule has struck a chord with cinema goers in Korea. It didn't hurt that it opened in the month the nation celebrates 70 years of independence. Kim Ji-hye tells us more about the movie Assassination.
Set during Japan's colonial rule of Korea, Assassination is about a group of Korean independence fighters who plot against two key figures in the ruling class, a Japanese governor and a Korean collaborator. More than 9 million local viewers have seen the film since it opened late last month. The timing of its release in the run-up to the 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japan's colonial rule on Saturday may have helped generate some extra buzz. But for some, the director is also a draw. The film is the latest by Choi Dong-hoon, who last dominated box offices with his mega hit Thieves. Choi says he was determined to make this film, even though people advise him against it.
But I really wanted to make this movie so that viewers can understand the reality of what people during that period were confronting.
The story, set in 1930, shows the harsh reality of life in Korea under Japanese colonial rule. To be fair, critics say it's difficult for a period film set during the colonial era to garner mass appeal.
When there's too much focus on historical events, the plot can be difficult to follow. If the events aren't portrayed correctly, the film may be seen as nothing more than shallow entertainment. So for producers, movies about Japanese colonization aren't easy.
Another challenge for Choy was the cost. Despite the box office numbers, the movie isn't expected to generate a huge profit. With a production budget of nearly $16 million, it needed 7 million viewers to just break even.
I enjoyed the movie. I laughed at some parts and was moved by others.
If it does reach the 10 million mark, Assassination will become the 12th Korean movie to do so, along with Thieves. Kim Jeon, Arirang News.
North Korea has strongly denied it was responsible for landmines that exploded last week at the DMZ. Pyongyang also said South Korea fabricated the whole thing. Our Hwang Ji-hye has more.
It's been 10 days since landmines blew up on the inter-Korean border, seriously injuring 2 South Korean soldiers. One man lost both his legs and the other lost a foot. This week, South Korea's defense ministry accused North Korea for the attack, saying the wooden box mines are those typically used by the North. The ministry said the smell of pine raisin was detected, the same raisin that was used in the mines several years ago. Pyongyang strongly denied responsibility for the attack and asked Seoul for proof. On Friday, North Korea's state news agency reported statements from Pyongyang's powerful National Defense Commission.
If South Korea wants to keep insisting the attack was our army's act, then show a video to prove it. If you don't have it, don't ever let North Korean provocation come out of your mouth again.
The North, in a typical fashion, went on to criticize the administration of South Korean President Park Geun-hye for repeatedly making fake scenarios and groundless accusations against the North. Still, South Korea maintains the landmine explosion was a clear provocation by North Korea. In response to Pyongyang's statements on Friday, Seoul's defense ministry said North Korea's cowardly statements were not worth any attention. South Korea also stressed that it will spare no mercy to another reckless provocation from the North. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Starting tomorrow, North Korea will be in its own time zone, dubbed Pyongyang time. Last week, the regime's state-run Korean Central News Agency said North Korea will set its clocks back 30 minutes on August 15th to mark Korea's liberation from Japan. The change will reset North Korean clocks to the time kept prior to Japanese colonization. North Korea is currently in the same time zone as South Korea and Japan. Seoul has expressed concern that the move could cause inconveniences at the jointly run Kaesong Industrial Complex and said today that South Korean workers will stick to the current time zone when commuting to work next week. Pyongyang threatened to turn Seoul into a sea of fire after anti-Pyongyang leaflets made their way across the border. The North's state-run Korean Central News Agency called it a foolhardy leaflet scattering operation on Friday. It added South Korea should not test the patience of the North's soldiers. The Fighters for Free North Korea, an activist group made up of North Korean defectors, said they released 10 balloons containing 200,000 leaflets. The messages condemned the North for last week's landmine explosions. South Korean police later stopped the activists from flying leaflets amid escalated military tensions between the two Koreas.
Samsung takes aim at Apple in the Big Apple. The Korean tech giant has unveiled 2 new high-end smartphones at a glitzy press event in New York City. The sooner-than-expected launch is in line with the Korean company's efforts to peg back its arch-rival Apple in the North American market. Son Jung-in has this report.
The co-CEO of Samsung Electronics took to the stage to showcase the brand new Galaxy Note 5 and the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus at the company's Unpacked event in New York City on Thursday.
The Note didn't just succeed, it created a category.
Thinner and slimmer than its predecessor, the Galaxy Note 5 allows users to take notes on their devices even when the display is off to save ideas that just popped into their heads. As for the bigger version of the curved smartphone, the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus, it comes with a feature in which users can add favorite icons on the Edge display to get faster and easier access.
And I think, yes, with these new designs from Samsung, these are absolutely fantastic new smartphones that absolutely beat Apple in almost every factor right now.
Topping off an exciting day for the company, Samsung also launched its mobile payment system, Samsung Pay, pre-installed in the two new phablets and the ones released in April. The service will be available in Korea from August 20th and from September 28th in the United States. Industry experts say Samsung's earlier release and change in location of the showcase comes as Apple is set to launch its new iPhone models next month. Samsung Electronics remains the leader in the global smartphone market, but the company's earnings have been eroded by the rise of Chinese firms and Apple's latest iPhones. The Galaxy Note 5 and the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus will officially go on sale next Friday in the United States and Canada and around the world from later this month. 손정인, Arirang News.
And on a more somber note, the older brother of Samsung Group Chairman Lee Gun-hee has died after a 3-year-long battle with cancer. Lee Myung-hee passed away earlier this morning at a hospital in Beijing. The 84-year-old was diagnosed with lung cancer in 2012 and moved to Japan to undergo a procedure to remove a third of his lung. Later, the cancer spread to other parts of his body. He was in China to receive radiation treatment. A funeral date has yet to be set. The Korea Grand Sale officially began on Friday. The Korean government hopes the event will help revitalize the nation's tourism industry and help boost the MERS-hit economy. Shin Se-min reports.
This year's 79-day Korea Grand Sale is taking place earlier than usual. The Korean government has decided to hold this year's sale event a couple of months earlier than the usual sale period to help revitalize the nation's tourism industry, still reeling from the MERS outbreak.
Now is the golden time for the industry to recover from the effects of the MERS outbreak.
This year's event, with its theme of magical moments in Korea, is the largest to date, with some 30,000 businesses, including department stores, airlines, hotels, performance venues, and transportation departments scheduled to take part. The Grand Sale event will give tourists access to discounts of up to 50 to 80% on selected items. The event, which runs until the end of October, will also provide discounts on transportation, free Wi-Fi modem rentals, and translation services, in addition to general tourism information. The organizing committee Visit Korea says that participating firms generated $119 million worth of sales in 2014, a 12-fold increase from its inaugural event held in 2011. Korea's tourism ministry also says it plans to supplement the sales event by promoting Korea's cultural aspects through various promotions, including Hallyu content and traditional cultural events. While hopes are high that the event will affect more tourists, concerns linger over the possibility that the recent devaluation of China's currency will discourage Chinese tourists from visiting due to higher costs. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
And for the top international headlines, we now turn to our Lee Sun-ho at the News Center.
Today's focus: deadly explosions in China cost car makers hundreds of millions of dollars. John Kerry makes an historic visit to Cuba, and a young girl in Paraguay who was denied abortion is forced to give birth to the child of the man who raped her.
Well, Sun-ho, let's start with our first story in China.
Well, the death toll as of now of the series of blasts in Tianjin now stands at over 50, with at least 700 more people hospitalized. Now, tragically, 21 firefighters were also killed, but one was rescued today, luckily, from the rubble. He was trapped for 31 hours and is now being treated for burns and smoke inhalation. Now, this isn't all. Industries also took a major blow, in particular Korean automakers and other exporting cars to China. For the stories on these industries, we turn to Kim Min-ji.
Korea's largest automaker, Hyundai Motor, is estimated to have suffered nearly $140 million in damages as a result of the explosions at the Chinese port of Tianjin. According to industry sources, Hyundai had roughly 4,000 cars near the area, the majority of which were luxury sedan models like the Genesis and Equus. Most Hyundai vehicles to be sold in China are produced locally, but premium models are still exported from Korea. A company official said it will take time to determine the extent of the damages, but that insurance coverage should help reduce any significant losses. French carmaker Renault had about 1,500 cars damaged, which is expected to result in losses of over $33 million based on the price of its cheapest model sold in China. Renault said the vehicles were in a warehouse which caught fire and was severely damaged. Nearly 3,000 Volkswagens were also damaged in the explosions. In a statement, the German carmaker said it did not have an official tally of how many vehicles were destroyed yet, adding that it will make deliveries via ports in Shanghai and Guangzhou in the meantime. While investigations are underway to determine the exact cause and extent of the losses, officials say they expect it to take a considerable amount of time. The explosion happened at a company warehouse late Wednesday in Tianjin. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
And turning to Cuba, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry makes a historic visit to Cuba's capital city of Havana to raise his nation's flag over the U.S. Embassy for the first time since 1961. The flag-raising ceremony will contribute to enhancing diplomatic ties between the U.S. and Cuba after the groundbreaking reopening of respective embassies on July 20th. Among the attendees to the ceremony are ranking Cuban and American officials and U.S. lawmakers, but no Cuban dissidents. Accompanying Kerry are 3 elderly former Marines who lowered the flag for the last time 54 years ago. Ahead of the trip, Kerry said the U.S. government will continue to stand up for freedom in Cuba.
Our preference is obviously for democracy, for a full embrace of the freedom of the Cuban people to choose their future, and that's what we stand for.
However, the picture was not all rosy. Just a day prior to Kerry's visit, former Cuban President Fidel Castro, who was celebrating his 89th birthday, published an editorial that made no mention of the flag-raising ceremony. He instead criticized the U.S., saying it owed Cuba millions of dollars due to a 50-year trade embargo. And lastly, amidst international controversy and protest, it was announced that an 11-year-old girl in Paraguay who had become pregnant when she was just 10 and denied an abortion has given birth to a baby girl.
At 8:30 a.m., the surgery began, and at 8:33, a baby girl weighing 3 kilos 50 grams was born without any complications or external anomalies, according to initial tests.
The doctor says both the baby and girl are in good health. The girl was raped by her 42-year-old stepfather and resulted in the pregnancy. His trial over the crime is still pending. Now, the case has put renewed attention on Latin America's strict anti-abortion laws, especially after Paraguay's health minister refused a request for the girl to undergo a procedure. Activist groups such as Amnesty International opposed the decision. In Paraguay, abortion is only allowed when the mother's life is at risk. Otherwise, the procedure is a crime. And that does it for your international news at this hour. I'll see you again next week.
It feels like the heat is building up again with the first day of a 3-day holiday weekend kicking off under sweltering conditions. In fact, a heat wave advisory was reissued in Daegu and parts of Gyeongsang-do and Jeollado provinces this afternoon. And the forecast points at an even sunnier day tomorrow with the UV index expected to rise to very high levels across the nation. So be sure to wear a good amount of sunscreen lotion and drink plenty of water. Now tomorrow, Korea's Liberation Day is going to be as hot as today, with temperature in Seoul reaching up to 32 degrees Celsius under mostly sunny skies. But on Sunday, we can expect a bit of relief from the heat as we are looking at a chance of sporadic rain in the afternoon. On that note, let's take a closer look at the readings for tomorrow. Seoul will soar to 32 and Daegu and Gwangju will skyrocket to 33 and Busan will top out at 30 tomorrow afternoon. And as for the other parts, Daejeon and Jeju Island will see a high of 33 and 30, and Dokdo will peak at 28. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
And that brings us to the end of our newscast. Thank you for staying with us.
And join me tomorrow at 10 a.m. Korea time for a special live coverage on the Liberation Day ceremony. And have a great weekend. Goodbye for now.